when you were talking about the other day when we were visiting and you said that you were driving up Date Street and you can remember where, explain how you talked about how that was just the edge of town going north.
9th Street was probably about the city limits at that time. Because just past where that Desert Air Motel, whatever it is, there used to be a hill here, and you go around the hill, and that was called Lover's Lane. And then they did away with all that when they built the motel and all. But kids going around behind the hill in the park, and it was Lover's Lane. And on up there was Letcher Station and a little store. And then
McNabb, did they have the turkey farm up there?
I think they did. But where the Moose Lodge was, what was that?
It was a roller rink.
No, well, before that, it was a bar.
Yeah. Then it was a skating thing.
Well, the bar and the dance hall, whatever, was there first. But Letcher Station was there, and there wasn't anything on this side, I don't think, at that time.
Tell us about Wayne and his family.
Oh, Wayne, his father came in about 1916 from Sweden.
1916?
First he had an aunt in an uncle came, and then another aunt came, and then Carl and Wayne's dad and another sister all came in 1916. When they came through Ellis Island, they changed their name from Johansson to Johnson. So we have no relation in America. Just my family and my brother-in-law's family is all that we're related. And then Wayne's other parents were all from North Dakota, because they all settled in North Dakota. And Wayne, well, they was all from Carrington, and then they moved to Jamestown. Wayne's dad was an interior decorator. He painted lots of houses and stuff.
Now, what brought them to New Mexico in 1916? I mean, that was right after we became a state.
No, they ended up in North Dakota in 1916, not down here.
Oh, okay.
They came in about 1943. They were going to Mesa, Arizona for the winter. Wayne's dad's health, because he wasn't a real healthy man. He had all kinds of lung problems. And during gas ration, they ran out of gas stamps in Hot Springs. So they stayed that winter, and then they went back. They never did get to Mesa, Arizona. They went back and they sold their house, and then they moved back down here. He did a lot better down here than he did in North Dakota.
And about what year was that? That was probably, what, 1944?
Well, probably 44, 45.
And that's, go ahead.
Wayne got, Wayne was on the Saratoga, and the kamikaze plane hit the flight deck above him. And the doctors didn't know if he was going to make it or not. And they took him, a bunch of the guys to Hawaii. And then they took him to Bremerton Hospital in Seattle, Washington. And he was there from February till October when they discharged him. But a lot of people didn't know he had one eye, because they put a false eye that would move just like a regular eye. A lot of people didn't know he had a false eye. Then after he got discharged in 45, he came down. He was here about Thanksgiving time in 45. I think we went home to North Dakota about 6 times in the 50-some years. He didn't want to go back up there and live.
What was the name of the community in North Dakota?
Well, he was born in Carrington.
Carrington.
And then he graduated from high school in Jamestown.
North Dakota. So that was pretty cold compared to down here. But that's another example of someone coming this way and quite by accident realizing how the value of the temperatures. Did he take the baths? The mineral baths?
I don't know if Wayne said did or not. He may have taken a few, but he didn't go and just take baths.
Yeah. But that was another example of how the temperature and the climate was very conducive to people that were needing, whether they had lung troubles, consumption, arthritis, whatever their medical issues, the weather really helped them feel better, so they opted to stay here. Now, you have, in talking about the war, you have one of your grandsons that's been in Iraq, Jeremiah?
He's been in Iraq twice. And he's was in Fort Riley, Kansas, but he's back down here in Fort Bliss now. And he just went to the Bahamas and got married. And they're expecting a baby this summer sometime.
And Jeremiah was one of our graduates from Geronimo Trails, and we're very proud of him going on to make, because he's making the military a career, isn't he?
Oh, he's been in since January of 2000.
He's about halfway there, isn't he, to retirement. Now you have another grandson, Tim, right? Is Tim still around town?
Yeah, he's still around here. His mother-in-law and his wife have the Copa Real. And I see in the newspaper where she went to work the other day and the door was pushed in. They stole the money and some of the chocolate stuff.
Oh, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. So tell us a little bit, you know, with businesses and with, you know, with Tim and his wife and the mother. See, his mother-in-law's name is, I can't.
Ellen Evans.
Ellen Evans. Can you recall some of the other businesses that were here, you know, in the 50s and the 60s?
There's a lot of them that aren't. A lot of service stations aren't here now that used to be around. There used to be one on this corner and one over here. There used to be a lot of stations. There used to be Texaco down where you go up through to go to the Elks Lodge. Wayne worked at it for Tom Prestridge. And there was Conoco across where Bullocks people park, different stuff. And I was looking through some of this stuff and I found a picture of the Hot Springs Hotel that was between TD Refrigeration and what was Riddle Drug. And there was a two-story hotel there that Jim Gillen owned.
Oh, really?
And down, you know where Ken James was down on the end of Main? When Jim Gillen owned that, he was living in it when he got real bad and sick. And my dad sat with him quite a bit before he died, when he was real sick.
And I think he died in, wasn't it the fall of 1947?
I don't remember. I know Daddy was sitting with him in 45, but I don't remember now what year he died.
I know that there were a number of reporters lurking around when it was released that he was on his deathbed, Jim Gilliland, hoping that there might be some kind of a confession, a deathbed confession on where the fountains, if in fact they were buried, you know, where their bodies were. So my mother remembered that because my mother having a car court, you know, there were some people were staying there with her. So. What about the bars? Do you remember any history on the bars?
The Buckhorn and Freddie Torres' dad had one down on Broadway, and Archie Arnold had one on the north side of Broadway, and there used to be something down by where the Desert Flower, the florist shop, there used to be a bar there.
Do you remember any stories about the gambling that were when it was wide open here in the 40s and the 50s?
They used to have gambling in the back of Buckhorn Bar, I heard. My dad never did gamble, so.
Did you gamble?
No. The Millers used to come in and gamble.
And the Millers were ranchers out in the St. Andrews Mountains?
Yeah, when you get up and pass by Gene Rose's field, just down the hill where the Millers were.
Tell about Gene Rhodes and his grave.
Huh?
Tell about Gene Rhodes and his grave.
Well, he lived in California when he died, but he wouldn't be taken back out there where the land went this way on the top of the divide. And she had him shipped, I guess, to Ingle on the train and then took him out there. And Daddy, I don't know who helped Daddy, but Daddy helped dig on the grave. I remember going and sitting playing in the dirt under the trees in the shade because this was in June. Now my grandpa died in May, and I don't remember that. And then just a month later, Gene wrote, but I remember going to his grave, Daddy, they got maybe 4 foot deep is all they could get it, so hard and rocky. And there were a lot of people there when he was buried. I remember a lot of people there.
And that was about 1935, wasn't it?
1934.
With 34? So you were just like maybe 4 or 5 years old. And and for those that may not know, Eugene Manlove Rhodes was a literary writer that really captured many of the stories and the language and the examples of life on the Jornada del Muerto.
Well, he wrote poems, more or less.
But he also wrote a number of books. No Mean City, which was a spin-off of when allegedly in 1917 Germany was going to bomb Ingle Dam or Elephant Butte Dam, and so he took that storyline and wrote the book No Mean City. So there was a number of other stories that he had also written as well.
Four Faces West, that was made into a movie, came off in one of his books.
Yes.
Paso Porky. And that's on his gravestone. And it was the only Western ever written where there was not a shot fired.
Yeah, that was a Paso Porky, right?
Paso Porky.
Porky, yeah. And that was the significant piece. And who was the movie star in that?
Joel McCrae.
Joel. That may be one that would be interesting for TV or TRC to run and see no shots were fired. So, and I think it's interesting that when I went to college in the 60s, I lived in Rhodes Hall at New Mexico State. Little did I know that Rhodes Hall was named after Eugene Manlove Rhodes, and that
I thought it was after his dad, I thought.
Well, one of the other, but the Rhodes family, and New Mexico State is the caretaker of his grave.
There was one book I got one time, there was a picture of the Rhodes house. It was on this side, as you go into Ingle, there was a house set off out here, was the Rhodes house. But he lived there, and Gene as a kid lived there, but he started working on the ranches, and then he got the big ranch out in the mountains.
Well, Rhodes Canyon was named after him.
Yeah,
so.
this, right. And then later he went back to New York and stayed in New York for many, many years and wrote his fond memories of New Mexico. So what I think?
Big conjecture that he didn't want to stay back there. But
he
His
did.
wife
He
wouldn't
did.
come back with him.
There's always something deeper in every story, isn't there? Okay, so we've talked about your husband, and we've talked about your grandchildren, and so...
Well, now, Michael, you didn't mention Michael. He works in the meat market down on Main Street in Las Cruces.
Oh, he does?
The Fiesta or something. It's on this side, on the east side of the road as you come up Main Street. He's working there. And his wife, now 2 years, is a nurse now.
Well, good.
They have 2 little girls.
And Michael was working at Bullock's for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so so did Tim, worked at Bullock's for a while. I think, did Jeremiah work for a while at Bullock's?
Yeah, Tim was in produce, and the other 2 were in the meat market.
That's right, that's right. So that served Michael well, the skills that he learned there to be able to go on and
They wanted him to come back, but they may eventually, but they left here because she was going to nurses training, and what she needed to get her stuff was in El Paso. So she couldn't drive from here to El Paso, so they moved to Cruces, and she's got some papers now. I don't know what she is, but they plan to come back up here.
well, that's good.